evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark is underscoring his full support for the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin. His comments come in response to recent criticism of the data produced by the 72-year-old institution. The minister was speaking at a media sensitization seminar hosted by Statin Today. Statin has come under fire in recent weeks as members of the public and even some politicians have questioned the accuracy of their data. With annual inflation at July coming in at just 3.2%, some have expressed doubts. So too, players in the BPO industry who say Statin's data doesn't adequately depict their contribution to the economy. But the finance minister says Statin has served Jamaica and the Caribbean, as well as several international organizations and countries, with accurate and reliable information.
So, Statin operates and abides by international best practices because Jamaica is a signatory to a framework document from the United Nations that many countries around the world are signatories to, and it means that data are collected in a particular manner and are treated in a particular manner, and where the methodology that is applied is best in class, and the techniques that are applied are the same techniques being applied around the world.
The minister says Statin staff are so well trained they're often poached by other wealthier countries in the region.
As Minister of Finance, I am told time and time again, and I knew this long before I got here, that the difficulty we have of retaining members of staff at Statin, because they're often seen as attractive by other countries who have more resources and see our professionals here as well trained and candidates for suitable acquisition.
Meanwhile, Minister Clark is again encouraging the public to focus on inflation rather than the exchange rate. Inflation remains at one of the lowest rates in recent times.
The real enemy is inflation. Why is the real enemy inflation? Because our purchases and our consumption in Jamaica are all made in Jamaican dollars. We have to be focused with what the Jamaican dollar can buy right here in Jamaica. And inflation is the variable that measures the change in what the Jamaican dollar can buy in Jamaica. It incorporates the exchange rate, of course, but inflation is the bigger variable because it incorporates much more. And it is the variable that if it gets too high, it can, as we have experienced in Jamaica in the 1990s and in the 2000s, it can be detrimental to lives.
Governor of the Bank of Jamaica, Brian Winter, is rubbishing claims by opposition spokesman on finance Mark Golding that the government has adopted a purely free-floating exchange rate policy. Governor Winter was speaking at the Bank of Jamaica's quarterly press briefing yesterday. Sashana Small reports.
In a statement last Friday, opposition spokesman on finance Mark Golding accused the government of adopting a new exchange rate policy, which he describes as a pure free float. He says because of the new policy, the Bank of Jamaica is no longer able to manage the foreign exchange market and promote stability, predictability, and confidence. But BOJ Governor Brian Winter says this is not true.
What we're operating now is a flexible market-determined exchange rate. What we operated this time a year ago is a flexible market-determined exchange rate. What we were operating a year before that is a flexible market-determined exchange rate.
And he says the BOJ has been taking actions to bring stability to the dollar.
I don't know what the label somebody else would want to attach to the floating regime we have now, where the Bank of Jamaica, at the time of that statement, had sold. Well, I don't know when the statement was issued, but when I saw it published in the papers on Friday, had already sold $65 million into the market. I don't know what you describe that. And I stress everything I've said this way because we sold the 25 million before the flash using B-Fix-It, exactly the same as we did in January, in February, or whenever we last sold in last year.
Governor Winter says he doesn't understand the labels being thrown around.
I think there are some labels being ascribed that I would need to sit down and understand what exactly the person is really asking or charging. But I can clarify to you that, we are intervening in the market and we've just sold an awful lot of money, okay?
For BATV News, I'm Shoshana Small.
Caribbean Producers Jamaica CPJ is reporting record gross revenues for the 12 months ended June 30. The company released its audited financial statements for the period today. Gross revenues are up 10% to nearly $108 million. The company is crediting this to aggressive marketing and pricing strategies, increased tourist arrivals over the past year, and the introduction of new products. CPJ says the strong growth in the first 3 quarters was followed by a softer than expected fourth quarter. The company says this was due to unforeseen challenges arising from the use of new IT software. It says the transition to the new platform impacted their operations and disrupted their service and sales in the last 2 months of the financial year. Meanwhile, CPJ is reporting gross profit is up 6% to $28 million. This despite fluctuations in the exchange rate. The company says it aligned its prices to remain competitive. In other companies' news, Howard Mitchell has been confirmed as the new chairman of Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances. Mr. Mitchell was confirmed in the position at the last meeting of the board of directors. And when we come back, Cabinet approves more than $1 billion in contracts. Find out what for after the break. Welcome back. Cabinet has approved more than $1 billion in contracts. The contracts span the education, health, banking, and water sectors. The announcements were made at the latest post-cabinet press briefing yesterday. Jamila Maitland reports.
Information Minister Ruel Reid says Cabinet has signed off on contracts totaling more than $380 million to provide and distribute textbooks for rental in the upcoming school year.
Kingston Bookshop Limited received the contract totaling $210,517,535,014 Jamaican dollars. Carlin Publishers Caribbean Limited, $110,593,387.65. Book Wizard Limited, $65,587,200.
Cabinet has also approved a contract for 1 dozen garbage trucks for the National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, and the National Water Commission, NWC, will be getting a new financial management system.
Kingston Industrial Garage, KIG, has been approved for a contract in the amount of $1,749,264 United States dollars for the purchase of 12 garbage compactors for the National Solid Waste Management Authority. National Water Commission. Cabinet has approved the award of a contract for the provision of consulting services for the implementation of a Financial Information Management System, FIM, by the National Water Commission to Fujitsu Caribbean Jamaica Limited. The contract is valued at $2,839,419 United States dollars and 17 cents.
Meanwhile, Minister Reid announced that a private security company was granted a contract for more than $126 million to provide security for the mental health institution, Bellevue Hospital.
In regards to Bellevue Hospital, Cabinet also approved the award of a contract to Modern Investigation and Security Limited in the sum of $126,918,828 for the provision of private security services over a period of 3 years at the Bellevue Hospital.
For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
The National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, says it saved more than $42 million on its fuel bill. The company says the savings are the result of control measures put in place at the agency over the past 3 years. NSWMA Chairman Dennis Chung says the company is significantly improving the culture that existed at the authority. He says progress has also been made at both the parent body and its 4 regional entities, which have now up-to-date audited financial statements for the first time since 2004. The chairman says officers of the NSWMA attended a retreat where they looked at the human resource capacity of the agency, its structures, signed off on the 2017-18 financial statements, and examined the entity's corporate governance. Mr. Chung says the primary mandate of the board is to ensure that proper corporate governance principles are adhered to, and the money saved has facilitated better management of the organization. The University of the West Indies will be reopening its campus in Providenciales in the Turks and Caicos Islands. They're partnering with the TCI government to re-establish a physical presence in the territory. UWI says they're making the move because of an increase in the number of TCI residents in their online programs. The reopening of the campus will allow for ease of access to the university's online degree programs, as well as its continuing and professional education programs. And in other news from UWI, the university has appointed 2 new deans at the Mona campus in Jamaica. Professor Michael Taylor is the new dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology, and Professor David Tennant is the new dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences. The new deans took office on August 1 and will serve until July 31, 2022. Professor Taylor joined UWI in 1999 as a lecturer in the Department of Physics. He's also the director of the Climate Studies Group, Mona CSGM, a position he's held since 2007. Meanwhile, David Tennant is a professor of development finance. He was previously the head of the Department of Economics since 2016, an associate dean in the Faculty of Social Sciences, and also served as an economist in the Financial Regulations Division of the Ministry of Finance and Planning. And when we come back, find out what Trinidad and Tobago's Energy Chamber has to say about the closure of the Petrotrin oil refinery. This and more in regional and international news up next. Welcome back. Time now for regional and international news. Trinidad and Tobago's Energy Chamber says it supports the decision to close the state-owned Petrotrin oil refinery. CNews' Janine Brown has more.
Even though the Energy Chamber sees the move to close the Petrotrin refinery as necessary, CEO Dr. Thackeray Driver says it's a sad development. He recognizes it comes with several ramifications. For one, he points out small contractors who depended on the company's refinery will now find it themselves at a disadvantage. Dr. Driver says moving forward, the government must approach the matter delicately in an effort to reduce the likelihood of further cuts.
I think what it really comes down to is that we need to have some mitigation measures put in place. I think that the government needs to step up and identify how it can create some business, and particularly in and around San Fernando, for contractors over the next a few months to allow them to absorb this change and to restructure themselves to take.
He says moving forward, the company will require investment from the private sector to fund its exploration efforts.
So that's the lease out and the farm out type programs, and potentially new joint ventures as well. And they will need that capital from private companies to come in and assist them. I think we should put a big emphasis behind that, get the company drilling again.
As he lambasted the board's announcement on Tuesday, head of the OWTU Ansel Roger predicted that there were plans in the pipeline for the refinery to be sold to a private entity. It's a claim Petrotrin's chairman has vigorously rejected. Asked for his opinion, Dr. Driver says he's not convinced that any private entity will have an interest in relieving the government of an outdated refinery. He does, however, believe that parts of the plant can be repurposed.
So, for example, all of the tanks which are used for storing crude oil to go into the refinery and storing finished products, you can use those in bunkering and as a terminal, so you can bring it in fuel at a price and store it and resell it.
Dr. Driver, who has voiced concern about massive corruption at Petrotrin in the past, says any restructuring effort must consider this to ensure Petrotrin's exploration model does not suffer the same fate. Janine Brown, C News.
Talks between the Guyana Teachers Union GTU and the government have broken down. This means the country's teachers are still on strike. The teachers say they cannot guarantee normalcy when school reopens on Monday. More in this report.
Executives of the Guyana Teachers Union walked into conciliation talks this afternoon with the Ministry of Education and the Labor Department. But in less than 2 hours, the talks ended, with the two sides not agreeing on a way forward. The Ministry of Education wants conciliation to continue as part of the collective bargaining agreement. But the Guyana Teachers Union has indicated that it is ready for arbitration, pointing out that the Labor Department disqualified itself as an impartial mediator when it attended previous negotiations between the Education Ministry and the union and offered advice and opinions. GTU President Mark Light.
There has been an impasse between the GTU's position and the Ministry of Education's position on the way forward. They are insisting that they want conciliation, and we are insisting that the conciliation process has been compromised, which to some extent has been admitted by the Ministry of Labor. And it is the Ministry of Education now to decide to meet the GTU's terms. And once those terms are met, we have gotten our release that we are prepared to call the strike off immediately should those conditions be satisfied.
Following the meeting at the Labor Department on Brigham, the GTU president also said the union would be willing to call off the strike completely if the Education Ministry agrees to move the process to arbitration.
No, the ball is in their court. We indicated to them that if they call us midnight tonight, we'll be ready.
Chief Education Officer Marcel Hudson hurried out of the meeting, but briefly expressed a desire for the strike to come to an end.
I want my children in school. We want our children in school. That's my position. Well, let's see what happens.
During today's meeting, the General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union, Coretta McDonald, read a full statement to the Chief Labor Officer detailing the union's position. In that statement, the union provided some of the terms of reference that it would like to see as part of the arbitration process.
We just want to say to our teachers, the struggle continues, and parents, general public out there, we trust that you would understand our position, and our position is we are willing to call the strike off as early as midnight tonight, providing that the Ministry of Education, they are willing to accept our terms.
For the process to move to arbitration, both parties would have to agree. Today marked the third day of strike by teachers across the country as they begin their pre-commencement activities for the new school year, which begins on Monday. The union is pushing for a 40% salary increase in keeping with the recommendations of a presidential task force. However, it has indicated that it is willing to negotiate downwards.
Argentina's currency, the peso, has hit a record low against the US dollar. President Mauricio Macri has asked the International Monetary Fund for an advance on a $50 billion bailout loan. But there's growing concern about whether the country can meet its financial obligations. Al Jazeera's Paul Chatterjee reports.
The International Monetary Fund has agreed to speed up bailout payments to Argentina. President Mauricio Macri made the request as the Argentine peso dropped to record lows.
It's a good thing that the IMF actually is here to step in, but you have to keep in mind also that the perception of the IMF inside Argentina is very negative following what happened in 2001.
2001 is when Argentina defaulted on its $93 billion loans. Tens of thousands of businesses closed, unemployment skyrocketed, and a huge number of people were left in poverty.
The new generation that did not live through the 2001 crisis like me, as I was still a kid, we see what's happening now, and there is less and less trust in the government.
Lack of trust has stemmed from the government's inability to cut deficit spending. It's also failed to address pension reforms or create revenues from taxes. All that and the spiraling peso worry global investors and Argentinians who want to take their money out of the country.
El país todavía tiene un problema que por la falta de credibilidad de todos los gobiernos.
The country has a problem, which is that due to all the government's lack of credibility, we think a lot in dollars, and it is logical to think in dollars with inflation at 30–35% per year.
Workers who've had enough are planning strikes and protests. And as Argentina prepares for elections next year, President Macri must stabilize the economy or lose control of it. Paul Chadurjian, Al Jazeera.
Nigeria is the latest stop on Prime Minister Theresa May's African tour. The British Prime Minister held talks surrounding military help and post-Brexit trade. Here's more.
The UK will increase its military support to Nigeria to help protect its citizens and British workers from the menace of groups like Boko Haram. The agreement was announced as Britain's Prime Minister continued her visit to Africa. But the main aim of the trip is to push trade ties.
We have long-standing links with Nigeria and long-standing close commercial ties with Nigeria. There are British companies that have been here in Nigeria for many, many years. We want to enhance those trading links. I think there are real opportunities for us to do so as we're leaving the European Union.
Together with France, the UK will assist Nigeria and Niger to strengthen border cooperation to stop trafficking of migrants.
Stay with us. Talking Stocks comes up next. Welcome back. Time now for Talking Stocks. 57 stocks traded today, of which 28 advanced, 17 declined, and 12 traded firm. The main JSE index declined by 15 points to close at over 323,000 points. The junior index also declined by 3 points to close at 3,217. Over 14 million units traded, valued at almost $300 million on the Jamaican dollar market. While on the U.S. dollar market, 10,000 units traded, valued at $2,300. Jamaica Broilers Group, with almost 8.8 million units trading, accounted for 62% of market volume. Indies Pharma Jamaica, with over 867,000 units trading, was second, and Lasco Manufacturing was third, with more than 582,000 units trading, accounting for 4% of market volume. The main advancers were General Accident, up 61 cents to close at $4.05. 1834 Investments, up 16 cents to close at $1.20. And Radio Jamaica, up 9 cents to close at $1.05. The main decliners were Pulse Investments, down 44 cents to close at $2.41, followed by Paramount Trading, down 40 cents to close at $2.60, and Seprod Group, down $3.50 to close at $44.39. In foreign exchange trading, the Jamaican dollar lost ground to the U.S., the Canadian, and the British pound today. The U.S. ended the day trading for an average $137.55, gaining 23 cents on the Jamaican dollar. The Canadian dollar ended the day selling for an average $106.65, gaining 9 cents. And the British pound sold for $177.69, gaining $1.98 on the Jamaican dollar. And that's the news. But before we go, a recap of our top story. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark is underscoring his full support for the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin. His comments come in response to recent criticism of the data produced by the 72-year-old institution. Thanks for watching. For more content, visit our website at batvja.com. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Pleasant viewing.